I'm not hospice at all. I wanted him to die while I was there.
Everybody else would like a chance to speak.
Just sitting there, talking to him, he was kind of out of it.
Good evening and welcome to the Candidates Forum for the City of Brook Park. I'm Mayor Tom Coyne. I'll serve as moderator, and our Finance Director Gregory Single is here with me, and Greg will be posing the questions to the various candidates. It's my understanding that everyone has been invited via Facebook and the internet to be here, and the candidates are here. We'll have an opportunity to answer questions as posed by the Finance Director. There's nobody here under any pressure. This is not a debate, it's a forum where you will answer some questions and talk about yourself, and hopefully the people of the city will learn a lot more about you. How we're going to proceed here. First, before we start, there is one member of council that has been re-elected without any opposition, and we'd like to have him up at the dais this evening, except we only have 2 hours. If Jimmy Mancini was on the dais, we'd probably have to adjourn and start again tomorrow morning. So we'd like to recognize Jimmy James Mancini, who is the Ward 2 councilman who has been re-elected without opposition, provided he votes for himself. He'll be certified. But we want to thank Jimmy for his service, and we're looking forward for him coming into the new council session. So what we're going to do, we're going to start with the Ward council people first. And we're going to ask you to introduce yourself and let us know why you're running for council and what specific qualifications you believe that you bring that will add something to helping solve the problems they're sitting and serving as a council. And before I ask you that, I want to clarify with everybody what the primary duties of a council person are, whether you're a man or a woman. Okay, the primary duties and responsibility by our charter is of the legislative nature. Your primary duty is to be responsible for enacting the budget of the city of Brook Park and passing laws that protect the community and provide for its needs, and that's why we chose Greg Single here, because he is the finance director, and I think most citizens, and even the loyal opposition who may or may not be here this evening, I think the primary focus of this community is our financial condition and how we go forward. So the first person we have here is Greg Stem, who is a candidate for council in Ward 1. If you briefly want to tell us about yourself, why you think why you're running for office, and what specific qualifications you believe are unique to your candidacy.
Sure, thank you, Mayor. The reason I'm running for councilman here in Ward 1 is, which I hope everybody is.
I'll tell you who you are. We need to know you. We need to know who you are. Citizens. Remember, you're talking to the citizens via the television, YouTube. So first of all, say who you are.
Thank you. I'm Gregory Stem. I'm running for councilman in Ward 1. I'm running basically because I hope everybody is running for the same reason. Is they're concerned about the city and they want to move forward and make it a better place to live. So I've been a police officer now for over 14 years. And during that time, I've had a lot of different hats in the uniform division, in the detective bureau. I made it through the ranks of corporal. Now I'm a police sergeant. And during my tenure as sergeant, I overseen our communications center for 14 months. And currently, I look over a regional hospital. I supervise a lot of officers. I deal with our schedule, our payroll, our budgeting, and productivity. So I care a lot about the city, and I'm going to be a part of it moving forward.
Okay. The next candidate we have is for Ward 3, Edward Orcutt. Ed, let us know who you are, why you're running, and what specific qualifications you bring to council.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. My name is Edward Orcutt. I'm running for City Council, Ward 3 representative. The reason why I'm running is our city is broken right now. I think I can be the communicator that brings everybody back together, at least in our ward where we have many issues. The qualifications that I do bring to the table is I have 8 years of military experience. And in the military, they taught me discipline. They taught me how to be a leader. And most of all, they taught me how to communicate. Currently, I'm a local 120 pipe fitter. I've taken all of my experiences and abilities from the military, transferred into the private sector, and right now I'm a project manager for the Carrier Corporation. I do equipment analysis, project management, where we're responsible for budgets and deadlines. I think those qualifications will help me lead everyone in Ward 3.
Okay, we have Rich Scott, candidate on the Democratic primary for Ward 4.
Yeah, hello, my name is Richard Scott. Rich, I prefer to go by Rich. I decided to run for council for a couple reasons. I've been a lifelong resident of the city since 1959. I've been here when the city's prospering. Not right now, we're struggling. Council needs a soothing voice on the board. We need to have the ability to talk, to come to a common goal, and I believe I can bring that to the council. Like I said, I've been here for 44 years, and I want to see the city return to the way it's been. Will that be possible? If we get the right people on council, yes, that things can turn, things will turn, and this city will be something to be proud of again. I want people in Brook Park to be able to say, I'm from Brook Park, and feel proud about living here.
Thank you, Rich. In this round, we're going to concentrate again on the ward councilman and each councilman, each candidate is going to be asked a question by the finance director. And at the close of this, don't get up and walk away, because when we're all done, every candidate up there, we have 2 closing questions we want to ask every candidate. Okay? Take your time, answer the question. Okay? Don't pull a marker, we'll be honest. Sorry, we don't have any water. We thought we'd bring your own, but just take your time, okay? And get your message across. Thank you.
Thank you. The first question we'll start with Mr. Stem. What are the biggest challenges facing the city, and if you are elected to city council, how do you plan to address those challenges?
So right now, our biggest challenge right now is our finances. Everybody can see our roadways, our infrastructure, our sidewalks. They're all in poor shape and need to be done. So I feel, once we're on council, the city has to present a workable, fair, and sustainable, successful program to the residents to get these jobs done. And as a city, we have to go to the residents to generate this revenue.
Mr. Orca, same question.
Brook Park's largest challenge is finances. We know that. It's obvious to the residents. We knock on doors. They know. They remember how the Ford plant was, and it's gone. I'm not one that will sit here and talk about the past. There's a problem. I like to get things done. So that's our biggest challenge. We really need to start thinking about how we're going to get those monies back. We have to work together. That's one thing we need to do, and it's something that I haven't seen in 22 months going to the council meetings. We need to work and plan for more jobs to come here, whether it's bringing the vendors to Ford that make their parts and bring them on that land. We have to generate a plan to gather more companies and bring them here. We have a very marketable city. We have an airport right next door. We have the rail system here, 2 rail yards here. We have the highway system here, 480 Turnpike, a few miles away. We have the marketable skills here. We do have to work on our finances, whether it's going to the residents and having them vote for an increase in tax, or city council working together and coming up with the administration of the city also, coming up with a great idea to be able to bring people in and put them right at that empty lot there on Ford.
From day one of my campaigning, my cards have stressed communication. We have to, as a council, we have to work together. Right now, we have a splintered group on council, constant battles, constant turmoil.
Rich,
That-
not to interrupt you, my job is moderator. The question was,
What
what is the
I'm sorry.
biggest challenge?
The biggest,
our city?
the biggest challenge of the city right now is finances. That's a no-brainer. That is on the forefront. Streets are an issue. Getting finances for the streets is an issue. Working together to try and get a tax ballot for the streets, that's an issue that's got to be worked on as a council as a whole. Like Ed said, I've been talking about the Ford Motor properties. Development is key to the city. Brook Park Road, we need to continue developing on Brook Park Road. We need to continue to stress getting the property at the Ford Motor Plant 1. That comes through, like I've said before, that is a jewel, and that is something that the city needs to get. So, like I said, finances is the main concern for, I think, everybody on this panel.
Any candidate like to add any more to that question? Now we will proceed to question two. Start with
Right in Ward 3, we have a major issue there. Flooding. We have to address our flooding issues. We have homes over there that periodically they're ripping everything out of their basements, and they feel like they're being forgotten. So we have to aggressively work together, communicate, and fix those issues.
Thank you. We'll start this question with Mr. Scott. Please explain your understanding of the city's budget. For example, revenues collected and expenditures dispersed. In your opinion, given your understanding of the budget, what is the greatest issue within the budget? Do you believe it's revenues collected and/or expenses dispersed?
Right now, operations of the city, the operation part of the budget is sustainable, it is in check. Capital spending, capital appropriations, that is the key right now that has to be get a grasp of and work on improving capital appropriations and capital expenditures. We need to get revenue in to take care of the capital appreciation. Like I said, the operation part of the budget is in check. It's just the capital appreciation, capital expenditures that need to be worked on.
Mr. Sem?
Yeah, so right now our city income tax, 80% of it goes to day-to-day operations within the city, and then the other 20% goes to capital improvements or operations. It is no secret we lost state funding, and we have to generate more revenues. And it's kind of a follow-up to my first question, how I think we should present that. And to add from the first part, we don't want to add business here, and I agree, but I think we have to make Brook Park more attractive. And that's with our infrastructure, our roadways, and our sidewalks, and our neighborhoods.
Mr. Orbeck?
I agree with both gentlemen to the left and right. It's been said many times. Operation is 80%. 20% is for capital improvements. If you walk out in your streets, I know there's a few people that are in some areas that have had their road done. Many of us have not. Greg is right when he says we need to become more attractive. That's how we're going to bring new business here. If we do not improve our streets and our infrastructure, we cannot attract new business here. It's not going to happen. That 20% that we have for capital improvements is not enough. We have to work together to be able to repair the streets, to attract the new business. It's plain and simple. Simple arithmetic. We just need to work together to get more monies in here to improve our streets.
Okay, the second part of the question, Danny just gave it. He has to be excused because he had city business with the Recreation Commission. So Danny Cohn is here with us. The second part of the question is, to simplify it, is that you view the problem is lack of revenue, not the wasteful or overspending. That's the second part of the question we need to address. So we'll go back to Rich and then Ed and then Ray. And then Danny, Greg will rephrase the total question for you for your answer.
Back in its heyday, 16,000 employees at Ford Motor Company. Today, 2,200, 2,500. There is a huge drop in revenue. It's right there. Can you repeat that? I want to say this correctly.
Okay, basically, the second part of the question is, all right, is this, you see this as a lack of revenue
Mhm.
or a spending problem, the financial condition of the city? That's the question.
Well, like
Okay, so the question is do you feel there's adequate revenue to operate, or we're wasting money improperly spending money?
No, like I said, we've had a huge drop, 14,000 employees. It is a lack of revenue. The waste in the city, we've reduced services to 38 people over in the service center. We've reduced city employees from 207 to approximately 137 people. It's not waste. We've tried to cut, the city's tried to cut, the city has cut. My son was one of the people that were laid off. We understand that what happened. The city was trying to and did cut to make necessities. It's not a waste of revenue, it's a lack of revenue, bottom line.
As I've been campaigning, I've met with all of the directors, met with the mayor, met with Mr. Dolan, and seen their operations. While I was interviewing them, I was testing them to see how efficient they were. We're running very efficient with what we have here in the city, in my belief. We're not wasting money. We have a lack of revenue. And just for people to know, in case they didn't have the opportunity to hear our finance director speak on November 12, 2014 at the State of the City, we generate our money, most of our money comes from income tax. People that come from outside the city or that live within the city that work here in Brook Park pay 2% of income tax. That's where we're generating our money from. Everybody needs to understand that. A lot of people think that they pay this property tax and that's where we get our money from. That's only 6 pennies on the dollar. So I don't believe that we are wasting any money here. We just have a revenue issue.
Yeah, I also believe it's a lack of revenue. In 2003, Ford Motor Company and Plain Dealer said they were downsizing. We didn't plan any long-term plans for success. We did the wait-and-see approach, and this is where we're at. We fell behind. I mean, there's no way to waste, so there's no waste of spending.
Mr. Colonna, we're going to ask you two questions here so we can catch up. First question was, what are the biggest challenges facing the city? And if you are elected, how do you plan to address these challenges?
Well, I think, when it comes down to the issues that we have here, our biggest issues, our biggest challenges are lack of revenues and the costs it is to run the city. And as far as addressing those issues, my time on council, Greg, we spend a ton of time together. The bottom line is you address those issues, you have to work together. You got to sit with the finance director, you got to understand the budget. Because there's a number of things in the budget that you can't touch. There's a number of things that are earmarked for specific purposes. There's a number of things that there's legislation that was passed that you can only use those dollars for specific things. I said it when I was on council before that, and I think it's taken the wrong way sometimes, is the budget process kind of needs to be restructured. You know, we need to take a look at those dollars and what they're earmarked for, and maybe reevaluate what they're earmarked for, and possibly earmark them for other purposes, for services, for spending that we see more relevant in this day and age. I'm sure back when I was running the first time in 2000, when I was a kid, you know, those revenues that were in those line items, I'm sure they served a very good purpose at the time. But we got to take a look at the budget. Not only take a look at where we're going to move dollars into specific areas, we really got to work with the mayor and the finance director, whoever they are, and we have to re-earmark some of those dollars possibly, and take a look at what we're using those for and what we've been using them for over the past 5-10 years. That was one of the things that I voiced with Mayor Elliott, is we got to take a look at, you know, hotel motel tax. Why do we have to continue using those dollars for this specific purpose? So I think what we have to do is really sit down and reevaluate where our dollars are being earmarked for, and obviously the revenue sources in the community. We have to address them on multiple ways, and I think is it a tax increase? Is it obviously bringing business in is a big thing. Restructuring the way that our employment is, the mayor's already started doing that. So I think those are the two main areas, and those are some areas that you could correct it. And you know, I want to make a statement. You know, Mayor Coyne, when he left last time, and you know, we had a lot of money. We had a lot of money coming in still. We had a lot of money saved, and you know, the council passed salary increases of I believe it was 4, 4, and 5%, 13% increase over 3 years. It has an impact. It has an impact and pushes you in a certain direction. At the time, we didn't know that we were going to fall into this economy the way we did, and so now you have to go back. And I always say, kind of press a reset button somehow, but you got to press it slowly. And I do believe the mayor is doing that. I believe that a number of the members of council are doing that. We got to continue doing that, but we got to do it efficiently, and we have to do it smart to still provide the quality of services that our residents expect.
Question number 2. Please explain your understanding of the city's budget. For example, city revenues collected and expenditures dispersed. And in your opinion, given your understanding of the budget, what is the greatest issue within the budget? Is it revenues collected and or expenses dispersed?
It's both. It's both. You know, obviously, it's not a secret that we're not bringing the revenues in that we were 10 years ago. I remember sitting in Mayor Elliott's office my first week on the job as a councilman at large, and we both looked at each other and we said, you know, there's probably a really good chance that Ford Motor Company is not going to be open at some point while we're serving. Thankfully, that didn't happen, but it did take a huge hit, and it did affect a lot of things. At one point, we were going to put shovels in the ground and revamp the rec center, build a new safety building, and then we had the foundry closing. So obviously, you know, the revenue source is a big issue, and on that end, I believe that you have to really dig in economic development-wise. Like I said, it's multiple functioning, a lot of moving parts to bring revenue in the community. It's not just increasing taxes. It's not just bringing business in. It's not just cutting your employment. In fact, I don't like to cut employment. I'd rather like to run more efficiently. I've always been a big fan of performance management programs to streamline city services. You know, but you know, when you take a look at the revenues coming in, you really got to attack economic development. Is that going to fix everything? Absolutely not. But it has to be a continuing thing. And during my time on council, we were frustrated because we didn't feel that we had an economic plan in place. Council would always be willing to approve tax abatements for Ford Motor Company. I've always been a huge supporter of incentives for businesses. That's one way to bring business into the community. Once we really verify and understand our master plan and put in specific businesses in specific areas. If you're a tech business and we want to take a look at the Aerospace Parkway for a tech area, hey, maybe we give you a little bit more incentive if we get you to locate there instead of Brook Park Road. You know, maybe that's a way that we can really get our name out there and say, hey, this community really works with the businesses. But I think that's one thing. Obviously, you know, like I said, Mayor Coyne is taking a first step with dealing with the administration, employment, things of that sort. And like I said, when we had money, even when I was at council for a very long time, we had money. So giving raises and taking care of good employees who do a good job, there's nothing wrong with that. But it catches up with you when the economy is going in the other direction. You're not working hard on economic development. And it needs to be known that city council, I laugh a little bit when I hear some people say, well, economic development at the door. You only have so much pull as a councilman for economic development. You hope to work with the mayor and make that happen as far as incentive programs and
We'd
things
like
like
to
that.
catch up. In fairness,
Okay.
we give you the rules in the beginning. We're not going to put a buzzer on you.
Oh, okay.
But we're going to, you're behind.
I'm
We're
done.
going to give you a little bit of advantage because you got a little bit of experience. But thank you for your answer.
Sure.
Question number 3, we'll start with Mr. Orcutt here. 5 of the 7 city council members voted to reallocate funds to provide senior services and neighborhood rehabilitation projects. Please explain why you agree or disagree with the actions taken by city council and what, if anything, you would have done differently.
I agree with the way the 5 of the 7 voted. In fact, that's why I'm here today. The services that were voted on and passed for cross connections. And you're going to hear me talk about flooding a lot. In Ward 3, we've got major problems. Those are some solutions. That's help, that's assistance to us. I would vote for that. Senior services, absolutely. People are used to the services they've had here. They want the services back. I would have voted for the services, absolutely. The sidewalk program, I would have voted yes for the sidewalk program, absolutely. And that's why I'm here today.
Mr. Scott?
I totally agree with the 5, their decision to support the actions taken. Like Mr. Orcutt said, I have been talking to the residents about the sidewalk program. It's something that is of a necessity. We've had it before, and we need to continue on that. Senior services, some were taken away, but you got to remember one thing. The mayor had to move on the decisions he did. The issues were put out to the residents to decide on what to do with those. Residents decided that they didn't want the tax increases. Senior services are coming back. Some came back. The snowplow service, the voucher program is a plus to the seniors. Will it ever be back like it was before? We do not have the employees. The service center does not have the employees to do the shoveling, the snowplowing programs as they had in the past. I've told the seniors that please bear with us. I do believe that this council will work together. I hope that the new council has in its long-range plans assistance for the seniors. But like I said before, I do totally agree with the five council people that did make the decisions to move on that.
Mr. Colon?
Can you repeat that, Greg, for you?
5 of the 7 council members voted to reallocate funds to provide senior services and neighborhood rehabilitation projects. Please explain why you agree or disagree with the action taken by City Council and what, if anything, you would have done differently.
I agree with the 5. There's no doubt about it. I think that the outstanding thing, especially with senior plowing and some of the other senior services, is that we were outdated. We had raised the cost of it over time, not much. But the fact of the matter is, I'm not in favor of cutting them, because all you have to do is take a look at the cost that it's going to take to offer it, and then you go back to the resident and say, hey, listen, we can continue offering these services, but here's what that cost is going to be. And I believe that that's what the 5 did in regards to the senior programming. And as far as the other programs and cross connections, obviously that's been a big issue across our community. when they built our community, these days that wouldn't be legal, but when they built it back then to get these homes up quick for all those Ford Motor Company employees, it was important to get these homes up. So I think that played into effect there. But also with home rehabilitation programs, things of that sort that were voted into that budget. You gotta. I'm disappointed in my opponent, the current sitting Ward 1 councilman, because you have to put your differences aside and say, all right, is this, number one, can we afford it, and is it good for the residents? If you can answer those two things right, that's how you vote. And I believe that's what the 5 members did. I think they asked them those two questions, and they were both yes. You vote yes. It was a great thing, and it's going to help our community.
Mr. Stem.
I also agree with the 5 members of council. Repositioning cost is common in business, especially from an accessible account to a completed account. And you look at the impact of where it's going. Our sidewalks, which we need fixed, and then most importantly, our seniors. I've cut grass for the senior program 20 years ago, so I know the positive effect it has on the seniors, and now I see the negative effect all summer campaigning on it. So I agree with all 5 members that were on the council.
Any candidate like to add anything before we go to the next question? We'll start here with Mr. Scott, I believe, is start here. What, if any, are the 1 or 2 major decisions made by City Council over the past 2 years in which you would have voted differently from the majority, and why?
I can't answer that.
Mr. DeBona?
I gotta be honest with you, I'm almost following up his answer. The majority of the things that you vote on when you're on council are whether they're house cleaning items and things of that sort. Some of the issues that came close to being voted on that I would have had an opinion on, they never made it to that point. I believe that most of the items that they voted on during the course of time, I believe were items that needed to be voted the way they were voted on so that the city can continue to operate. Obviously there were a couple issues over the past that never made it to that vote. So you might have had a different answer out of me right now if those would have came to a yes or no vote. But I think for the majority,
Why don't you clarify that for us? Tell us
okay. EMS privatizing. You got your the trash privatizing. Some of those things would have concerned me. I would have been. First of all, there wasn't a lot of information that was provided to give a yes or no. But I'm always concerned with those items that weakens your labor base, weakens your workforce. So those are concerns of mine when that issue was being talked about. But again, it never came to a vote. But that's how I feel about those items. Those items got to be very, very carefully researched, because once you dive in, you can't dive out. And you got to really take a look at how it affects your labor base. We're a labor-strong community. We need to make sure that we maintain that.
Mr. Stem?
Yeah, could you repeat the whole question? Yes.
What, if any, are 1 or 2 major decisions made by City Council in the past 2 years in which you would have voted differently from the majority, and why?
So that is a good question. When it comes to mine, I would have voted to put the full city income tax on the ballot. Our problems aren't going away in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. These are long-term problems. We need a longevity plan. I feel anything short of that is just putting a Band-Aid on the problem. I don't feel comfortable with starting projects I can't finish.
Mr. Orca?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that a big thank you to our city council. I've come to most of you for advice. This is my first time running. I do appreciate all the advice that you've given me. I think you guys have done a great job with balancing that budget. That was a big thing for our city. We should be popping champagne in the streets and celebrating, right? But We're not always gonna agree on everything. So, Greg, I think you stole a little bit of my thunder, because my background as a Navy CB, a project manager that has been over to Iraq and built those front lines, I understand what it takes for money. Back home here, I'm a project manager on construction projects that are multi-million-dollar projects. And the one thing that I have to say is our infrastructure cannot be rebuilt at 0.5% for 5 years. It won't happen. It's not realistic, and I would like to help sell that to the citizens. That income tax is not going to be paid by a majority of our residents. A lot of our residents are retired. They're living on their pensions. They're living on Social Security. They are exempt. If you work outside of the city of Brook Park and you pay 2.5% and the citizens vote on that ballot and pass that 0.5%, well, guess what? If we go to 2.5%, you work outside the city and you're 2.5%. You're not paying any additional money. We needed to communicate that a little better to the people before they voted on that on August 5th, 2014. That didn't happen. I've talked to the mayor about that. That's one thing that we kind of disagree on. But we need to communicate. We need an infrastructure plan that is going to be a longer term than the 5 years. Whether it's 8, 10, 15, whatever it is, once we rebuild these streets, once we rebuild the infrastructure, and we have made the city more attractive to bring in new business, which is going to create more revenue, then we go to the people and we take that tax increase away.
Would any candidate like to end?
Obviously, I didn't fully understand the question, but I have talked,
Finance guy asked me the question.
and obviously I didn't fully understand the question. I have in the past and continue to talk to the residents about issues that have not been voted on. They were talked about, but there was no action on it. That's why I said there's nothing that I could change. I initially was interviewed by Grant Siegel. I was asked by him about the tax issue, and I told them communication was an issue on that. It was brought out, there should have been more communication on the issue. I told Mr. Grant Siegel that the 5-year renewal, I did not truly believe in. I thought that it should have been a longer time span. Privatization of garbage. I've talked to some of the union heads at the garage. That was not brought up. There's 4 points that when I'm elected that have to be fulfilled before I would even consider privatization of garbage. Privatization of the EMS services, that's a core issue. None of these issues have been brought up. That's why I said I can't answer that. A lot of discussions, nothing was fulfilled, so that's why I answered there was nothing that I could change. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other candidate want to add?
Okay, the ward candidates can take a little breather, but we're going to come back because we're going to have 2 questions for everyone. And I think you did a very good job in answering your questions. You were frank, and you didn't take a lot of time. And that's why we're glad Jimmy Mancini was elected without opposition, because we had a lot more time than had been allocated up here this evening. Okay, we're going to ask the law director and the council president candidates to take a little deep breath here, and we're going to move on to the council large candidates that are here this evening. We're going to start with the same thing, and for people's information in Brook Park, we do have 4 ward councilmen. We elect our council president citywide, and we're unique in that we have 3 representatives that represent the majority of the city of Brook Park, and we're unique, and so when you cast your vote, you actually get 5 people. You get your ward councilman, your council president, and 3 at large. So you have a big say in how your city's operating, and you could argue you elect the majority of the member of the city council. So what we're going to do is start, and we're going to ask you the same thing we did at the beginning of this. And again, outlined for people that are just catching up what the primary role of a councilman is to appropriate the monies for the budget of the city and act those laws that are necessary to make the city safe and deliver services. So we're going to start with Mike Von Doon, who is running for council at large. Mike, tell us who you are. We all know who you are and why you're running for council and what unique abilities you believe that will add value added to the city council.
My name is Mike Von Doon. I'll be on the ballot as Michael J. Von Doon. I'm a lifelong resident. My mom and dad moved to Brook Park when I was just a baby. They carried me across the house that they still live in on Claudia Drive. And never left Brook Park. I've owned 3 different homes in Brook Park myself and intend to always be here. Both of my children also bought homes in Brook Park. My grandkids are being raised here. So it's very important to me to see the city progress and be strong into the future. This private business, I have a strong background in emergency management and fire technology. I have 2 degrees in those fields. I'm currently serving as vice president with Bassett Sprinkler Protection here in Cleveland, a fire protection contractor. I was in charge of my first $1 million budget when I was 26 years old, and it grew substantially throughout my career. So I know what dealing with financial controllers is all about, and budgets and administering them as well as developing them. I think the biggest part of our budget is obviously the public safety, and that's where my strongest background comes in. And I believe I bring a very strong force that is knowledgeable about that field to council, and I think that's one of the reasons I make a great council candidate.
Councilman Bergio.
Thank you, and I apologize for being a little late. We had a Recreation Commission meeting, and thankfully it didn't last too long, so I'm glad to be here. I've been in Brook Park since I was a teenager. My parents had a house built on Wolf Road, and I had the greatest parents that I could ever hope for. They taught me values. They taught me how important it is to give back to the community. My father was a World War II vet, loved this country as I do, and I love my community. And I love giving back to my community. I think it's very important. Bought my first home in 1976 on Sylvia Drive, and that's where I live today. I have a vested interest in Brook Park. All my kids went to all the schools, 3 city schools, went to Mid-Park, and all the schools in Brook Park, and involved in the schools. In fact, I thought it was very important that we have representation in our city, and that's why I ran for the Berea School Board in 1989. I served for most of that decade on the Berea School Board. And I thought it was important that we have a voice, and that's why I ran for that position. I think a lot of people were glad I did. Hopefully they thought I did a good job. And then after 1999, I was asked to run for city council for the same reasons, so that people would be represented. And hopefully they think that I've done a good job doing that. I love what I'm doing, love my job. I think my greatest asset is returning phone calls, getting back to people, and following through. It's not rocket science, it's basic, but people expect that. And I think that's one of the main reasons that they've had the trust in me that I would represent them well and follow through and do my job. And that's what I intend to do. I still love what I'm doing.
Thank you, Councilman. Newcomer, challenger, Jeff Duke.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Jeff Duke, and I'm running for City Council at large. My background is pretty straightforward. I've got a master's degree in civil and environmental engineering, and I've got over 24 years in public works and project management delivery experience. I think that type of experience is not on council today, and it will be a great asset to council to bring that background, like Mr. Orcutt, that has some of that project management and construction and project delivery background as well. I have had 2 major jobs in the last 22 years. One as an engineer, design, planning engineer. So I've dealt with project planning from facilities planning, short-term and long-term. We need to have that perspective on council, not just a 2-year perspective, but a 5-year perspective, a 10-year perspective, a 20-year perspective as well. And I have done that for over 10 years. My last 10 years of my career have been in management experience. I manage a staff of 10. And our main
delivery is information services. We work to improve processes. We work to improve delivery to our customers. And I think improving that delivery to our customers is something that I can bring to council as well. Thank you.
Thank you. The Dean of City Council, Councilman Salvatore.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Rich Salvatore. I'm serving as a councilman at large at the present time. I moved into the city with my family back in 1959. I watched the city grow from a village to the city that it is now. I grew up on the fields of Brook Park, starting with Little League. In fact, here we are many years later, and I'm still on those same fields, except not as a player, but teaching our young kids how to play baseball. My background is pretty straightforward. Everything I've ever done in my life, I've found a way to either become licensed and or certified from one of the only parking managers who holds that title of becoming certified. I'm licensed by the state of Ohio to engage in the active real estate. I become certified as a real estate appraiser. And now I'm now managing a multi-million-dollar nationwide, part of a nationwide company that handles all ground transportation and everything that goes through the major airports, from the rental cars to the employees, to the parking, even to the taxi cab stands. So my background is quite diversified, and in this day and age, I think it brings a lot to the table, especially when we're in the process of trying to rebuild Brook Park from this horrible economy that we just have gone through that lasted a lot longer than most of us ever thought it would. I enjoy every minute that I've served on council. I've been around for a long time. I've been very lucky to have the people keep bringing me back. I'm very fortunate to have also served as the council president. I was also elected as a council pro tem by my colleagues, and I am proud to say that I'm one of the longest running appointed members from City Council to serve on the Southwest Hospital Board, which is we all know that there's a lot going on there, and I like to think that I had a major role in some of it, and there's a lot of things coming forward that is going to require some expertise in a lot of different fields to keep that hospital moving forward and keep it as vibrant as it is right now. Other than that, I'm looking forward to hopefully serving another term, and there are some great candidates up here this evening that I hope we see a lot of them serving on this council as well. And one thing is for certain, we are going to get some new faces. You know for sure we're going to get a new president of council, the incumbent's not running. You know we're getting a new Ward 4 councilman. You know for sure you're going to get at least one new at-large councilman. So I do believe experience that I bring to the table is going to be very important going through this next term. And as I've served on every board, every commission, everything that Brook Park has had an appointment. In fact, I was one of the first appointments of Mayor Coyne as a rec commission member. I served on a board that he established when we were self-insured. I was one of the first members on our self-insurance board. So I do have a diverse background, and I bring to the table a tremendous amount of experience, and most importantly, I come to the table with a tremendous amount of desire to continue to serve. Thank you.
To repeat the ground rules again, we're not going to pressure you. We don't have a time. But if you see me start to grab the microphone away from Greg, you know that your time is just about up. Take your time. And for the audience at home and here this evening, again, the questions were prepared by the finance director. I think no matter whose side you're on or what view you have, I think everybody agrees that finances are the challenge to the city. And I think Greg has put together a good question so people understand where you're going to be at in moving the city forward. So take your time, but if you get into Jimmy Mancini mode, then I'm going to have to grab the microphone from Greg and say, okay, we got to move on to the next question. Okay? Thank you.
We'll start with Mr. Salvatore. What are the biggest challenges facing the city, and if you are re-elected, how do you plan to address these challenges?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is going to be to find new revenue streams to increase the revenue that's coming into this community. As you drive around, you can see the roads are deplorable. We need to really tackle that head on. We need to take a good hard look at economic development. Anybody can sit up here and at home, and other candidates walking door to door, they can all say, yeah, we need to do something about economic development. Well, what's the answer? The answer is we have to dig in, we have to help the small businesses that we have in this community to grow. We have to find out what their problems are and how we can help them. How can we get them to hire more people? What's it going to take to bring in new businesses? And we only have a small window of opportunity in which to do that. The economy seems to show some life. And during that period, with the interest rates down, this is a golden opportunity for us to fill those vacant stores, to get small business back on the right track. Now, having said all that, the most important thing that we have is to do something with Ford Motor Company. They've been our partner for years. They've been the backbone of this community as far as revenue goes. And now it's time to sit down with them, even if it takes sending somebody to Detroit and sit outside the CEO's office and say, I'm not leaving until you talk to me. And if you don't talk to me today, I'll be back tomorrow. If you don't talk to me tomorrow, I'm coming back the next day. So we need to sit down and form a partnership with Ford. With those 400 acres sitting over there, to be doing nothing is a crime. We have to get them to come to the table and sit with us so that we can once again be vibrant and become partners with Ford. I can remember a few years back, the partnership was formed with the public power, and Ford Motor Company became a major player helping us put that together, and they also became a major beneficiary of reduced costs in electricity, as well as the $188 that went back to every resident in Brook Park. These are the kind of things that we have to do again. The aerospace park, it didn't just fall out of the sky. There was a lot of hard work that went into that. And having the courage to take on the north side of Brook Park Road when most of us were embarrassed to drive down it, but that road shared our name. We said, we have to do something. And we did. It was bold, it was daring, but we did it. We took on the north side of Brook Park Road. The mayor put together a package with the city of Cleveland, and quite frankly, we were all kind of nervous about it, but at the end of the day, Mayor Quinn picked their pockets. We got about $800,000 worth of revenue coming in from there, and today, it's slowly but surely starting to shape up and be the kind of street that we want it to be. It shares our name. There's a lot of work left to do, but in one respect, it's good because we have areas that we can now develop. We can now start packaging land now that the economy is starting to get a little better. There are people that are showing an interest. Are you telling me to quit talking?
We're invoking the Mancini rule. You'll have some more time at closing.
Okay, I'll call me Mancini number 2, and I'll pass it. Thank you.
Mr. Duke.
Well, I think you had enough people say so far that the biggest problem is finances. I like to think I'll take a little different perspective. I think that the biggest challenge that's facing the city right now is fear of change, and finances is part of that. We have a fear of change from many different perspectives.